All India Radio, Chennai. Tonight, in our weekly program of English, we feature an interview titled The Grove of Research, IIT Madras, with Professor Dr. PRABHU Rajagopal, Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Faculty in charge of Center for Innovations, IIT Madras. In conversation with him is Gollapudi Shri Srinivasamurthy. This is the first part.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to the program. Today we're going to talk about innovation and how innovation as a service aids in actually catapulting a startup ecosystem in the country. As we all know, today India has got the best startup innovation ecosystem in the world. We rank number 3 in the world with about 90,000 startups, 100 plus unicorns, and $30 billion of portfolio investments. At the forefront of this innovation is the most advanced institutes and premium institutes of India, IIT Madras. And to talk about that, we have with us Professor Dr. PRABHU Rajagopal, who is the faculty in charge of the innovations in IIT Madras. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks so much, Mr. SRINIVASAMURTHY, for the wonderful opening and statement and welcome.
Thank you. So let me first start off by asking a very inspirational question to our listeners. I know you've been in the core projects of IIT Madras innovation strategies and the roadmaps. And you've developed, what we understand is you've developed a lot of innovation processes internally and also which are beneficial to the society and the social welfare as a whole. Now, can you just talk about a couple of those that are very close to your heart and that has got such social impact on the society?
Thank you, and the wonderful opening question. I am a professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at IIT Madras and part of a laboratory called Center for Non-Destructive Evaluation that I co-lead today. Now, in this lab, our goal is to develop sensors and also platforms to carry these sensors to remote locations. And ultimately, these days, we are also interested in what we do with the data that comes out of the sensors as such. So it is in this context that we started developing a couple of innovations several years ago. The first one was a robot to carry our sensors to go into inaccessible locations, places like deep inside pipelines, deep underwater, inside oil and gas tanks, and so on. So this was the starting point for the first startup that came out of our group, which is called Planis Technologies. Planis is today India's one of the few original equipment manufacturers in the country, and which offers these solutions, which is robotic inspection solutions for assessing the structural safety of dams, bridges, ports, and so on. Right? So, almost every major and minor dam in the country has been inspected using robots developed by Planis. River crossings of rail tracks, river crossings of road bridges are also inspected routinely by them. So this is where there could be cracks, there could be pitting, there could be damages to the structural integrity, and when it is an underwater condition in the flowing water or very deep, such as in a dam, it's very difficult to assess manually, and this is where robotic inspection has played a major role. Now the beauty of it and why it is close to my heart is that just the other day, my former student and the current CEO of Planis was telling me that he is going to meet the district collector in a very urban locality in Maharashtra. And this district collector is going to be given a digital dashboard with which he can monitor the integrity of all the pipelines in his taluk.
Sitting in his seat. Fantastic. Okay.
Right. So this is digitalization. This is India, as we call the new India, where even in a gram panchayat or in a taluk office, today we have access to digital infrastructure information. And so this is the kind of transformation that this startup has been able to do. They also have a dashboard with which you can, for example, somebody sitting in Delhi can look at all their assets, whether these assets are dams or road bridges or even tankage as such, and look at structural integrity over a period of time. Right. So this is something that's very close to my heart. It started as a final year master's project under my guidance. Of course, it won the best master's project, but later, really went and did something disruptive in the field as such. And this robot is now also being used widely for inspection of storage tanks, which in the oil and gas industry, there could be two types of storage tanks. One is for water, which you put, for putting out fires and so on. These are called hydrant tanks.
Okay.
And the other is, product tanks. So the solution is now, commercially deployed for water tanks, and it is now being adapted for oil and gas tanks as well. So that is unique anywhere in the world as such. And to think that these came out of our lab, it's a joy. This startup also did an inspection of Chennai port few years ago.
Very nice. Okay.
And so on. And the second innovation is actually related to the first. So when we developed a robot for inspecting pipes, I thought one possibility could be to apply it in sewers. That's how we went and inspected some sewer networks, starting with IIT sewer network.
Okay.
Then I came back completely shocked, because the state of sewer network even in IIT
on-prem
is like very, very challenging. We don't know where the manholes are. Where there should be a manhole is like now blocked off.
Okay.
And inside, the conditions are very drastic.
Okay.
You can have anything in the tree root penetration. You can have, chocolate wrappers, and you have to operate a robot in this condition. It's not going to be possible. So that's when I started, this is where innovation comes in. So I said, our regular robots run on rotary propellers. Those, I said, will not work in these conditions. Can we use maybe a bio-inspired propulsion, like a fish? So we had a couple of, masters, PhD students study fish-like propulsion. Then a few years' time, we came up with another robot, which we call the Sepoy, for inspection of sewer lines.
Okay.
So this is where then the NGO partners came in, the Safai Karamchari Andolan. They felt that the more severe problem is in septic tanks and not in sewer lines.
Okay.
Because there human beings enter, a lot of deaths happen because of trapped gases, very challenging conditions, drowning, asphyxiation, and so on. So, what started off as a pipeline crawler or inspection tool had morphed into a fish for inspecting at sewer. Finally, we had to stop it over there and go in a completely different direction. We developed a set of dedicated blades for homogenizing the contents of a tank.
Okay.
So, because that's what was required.
That was required, right.
And we call that the HomoSep robot.
Okay.
So that is the other innovation that's very dear to my heart. Today, the HomoSep technology, we have filed IPs, has been licensed to another startup which has come out of our lab called Solinas. Solinas is into water and sanitation, and they have further developed this solution, developed various versions of the HomoSep, the coolest of which is one that can be deployed on an auto rickshaw and taken to like an alleyway behind a little
more mobile by itself.
Mobile.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's now deployed at over 15 locations in the country, being still trialed out by different NGO government partners. And my dream is that we will have maybe 10 of these machines in every district of the country, so that we can completely eliminate manual scavenging.
Fantastic. Now, I think it's what's more important to understand from what you explained now is how a walk around an area has really taken you how far than where it should be right now.
Yeah.
Very fantastic. So fantastic. I think that'd be more inspiring. Now, what is this? It also proves that innovation is actually the first step towards a startup. I think that's where. Yes, it's very nice. But what is this Center for Innovation all about? What do you do in Center? We know that it's very strategic. It's got a massive roadmap, and we know that it has come up. It's got a lot of patents, and it has ESG responsibility as well. What is this? How does the roadmap look like? How did it start?
So thank you. So this is the other hat I wear. So one is I am a researcher. I have a laboratory, which is the CNDE I mentioned. And the other hat I wear is the faculty mentor for our, now what can I say, campus innovation ecosystem. So it started off historically with the Center for Innovation. The CFI, as we like to proudly call it, is a maker space at its heart. Right?
I see.
So I was also an IIT alumnus, And I can very proudly say that there is an IIT Madras which is pre and post CFI. Whereas in the pre-CFI era, which is like in my generation, the education was top notch. Definitely we got, exposure to content which was very advanced. But the one thing that we were lacking badly was practical experience.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen an engine maybe a couple of times in my 5 years. But now in the makerspace at CFI, students actually assemble an entire racing car by themselves. We have a formula racing team called Raftar, which has built combustion-based cars. They were the number one team in India for 6 years in a row. Now today they build an electric racing car, and they were number 3 this year in Formula Bharat. Everything is their own, from the chassis, the battery packs, the suspensions, the frame, even the tires are all designed and fabricated by them actually. Imagine
Fantastic.
the level of practical exposure that they get. So this is the idea of CFI, which is to make students come together, work in teams, explore, concepts, ideas by making them. Not just, read up about them, write essays about them, but actually learn by doing. And it was seeded in about 15 years ago by the IIT Madras alumni batch of 1981. They gave some seed grant for this. We had a very humble facility for the initial years. Today, I'm very proud to say, I think it is, IIT Madras's first architect designed premises. So it's called the Sudha and Shankar Innovation Hub, after the same alumnus, Mr. Shankar, who donated for this center as well when we had our first open house in this place. So now this Innovation Hub actually now brings together the makerspace aspect of it, as well as the further chain of innovation, which is like, we have a startup nursery where very mature ideas from these student teams can be taken and experimented on as a potential startup.
Okay.
Right? We also have a entrepreneurship training facility called the Gopalakrishnan Deshpande Center. And we have several allied innovation activities, all co-located in the same working space. So this is the innovation hub, and yes, the hub has various mandates to look at student innovation, tie that to industry and society needs, bring about IP, metrics and so on, and feed into our startup ecosystem.
Very interesting to know that, sir. I think that's all we have time for this week, but we would like to really understand how this model actually grows as a full life cycle, and we will have a discussion again next week, same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You just listened to the first part of an interview titled The Grove of Research, IIT Madras, with Professor Dr. PRABHU Rajagopal, Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Faculty in charge of Center for Innovations, IIT Madras. In conversation with him was Gollapudi Shri SRINIVASAMURTHY. With that, we come to an end of this edition of Program of English, and until we meet in the next part, take good care of yourselves and good night from AR Chennai.